Good evening and welcome to the Monday, October 26, 2026 p.m. regular meeting of the Bell Gardens Successor Agency to the Community Development Commission. The meeting will now come to order. Pursuant to Executive Order N2920, please be advised that members of the Bell Gardens Successor Agency will participate in today's meeting telephonically. Agency members and staff are participating from remote locations. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting live online through the city's website as noted on the agenda. Conflict of interest recusal. If any agency members should have any conflict of interest virtually, please leave the room by turning off your video and muting yourself. You may still keep listening to the meeting. And now as for our Pledge of Allegiance, City Manager, will you please lead us?
Rise.
Agency Secretary, will you please call roll of the Successor Agency?
Yes, Chair. Agency members Acetuno,
Present.
Barcena,
Present.
Vice Chair Flores,
Present.
and Chair Cortez.
Present. Okay, moving on to public participation. Do we have any public participation for the Successor Agency?
We do not have any speakers, Mayor.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and close public participation. Moving on to the consent calendar. Is there anybody who wishes to pull any items for separate discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll move to approve the consent calendar. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Councilmember Barcena. We'll take this to a roll call. Councilmember Aceituno.
Yes.
Councilmember Barcena.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
And yes for myself as well. So consent calendar carries. With that, we conclude the consent calendar. Moving on to agency member or public participation on non-agenda items. Successor Agency Secretary, do we have any?
We do not have any speakers, Mayor.
Okay, I'll go ahead and close public participation for the non-agenda items of the Successor Agency. And now moving on to agency comments, agency member comments. Hearing none, I will go ahead and adjourn the Successor Agency at 6:04 p.m. and call to order the City Council meeting. Good evening and welcome to the Monday, October 26, 2026 p.m. regular meeting of the Bell Gardens City Council. The meeting will now come to order. Pursuant to Executive Order N2920, please be advised that members of the Bell Gardens City Council will participate in today's meeting telephonically. Council members and staff are participating from remote locations. Members of the public may view and listen to the meeting live online through the city's website as noted on the agenda. Conflict of interest recusal. If any agency member should have any conflict of interest virtually, please leave the room by turning off video and muting yourself. You may still keep listening to the meeting. Roll call. City Clerk, can you please call roll of the City Council?
Yes, Mayor. Council members Acetuno,
Present.
Barcena,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Flores,
Present.
and Mayor Cortez.
Present. City Attorney, will you please give our closed session report?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. The record should reflect that the City Council recessed in the closed session to discuss the two items posted on tonight's agenda. With respect to both items, the City Council received a briefing from legal counsel, but there was no final action taken on any of these items. Thank you.
Thank you, City Attorney. City Manager, we're moving on to the first public hearing item.
Thank you, Mayor Cortez. This first public hearing item is the result of our Department of Public Works.
Mike, is your mic off?
Okay, there we go. Mayor Pro Tem, can you hear me okay, since you're offsite? Okay, thanks. Turns out the antenna is a microphone. Thanks for letting me know. This public hearing item is for reducing the red curb markings around fire hydrants. So the purpose of this item was to provide additional parking, even if it's just incremental additional parking within the city. So currently, most fire hydrants have a 30-foot limit where you cannot park near them. So 15 feet to the left, 15 feet to the right. Some hydrants are less depending on specifics of the street. So if there's a driveway or some other impediment, there may be less than 30 feet with some hydrants. But what this would do is set the standard at 20 feet instead of 30, therefore opening up about 10 feet of additional parking, 5 feet on each side. It's hard to say exactly how many additional parking spaces this would result in, but if you just use some averages, if you took 10 feet times 540 fire hydrant, that's 5,400 feet of additional parking. And depending on how many feet the red curbing exists and where there's already driveways in that, I think it's safe to assume that there's a couple or a few thousand feet of additional parking that would be made available by reducing these markings without really materially impacting safety. And so this is something that went from staff to the Traffic and Safety Commission. And at this time, I'll turn it over to the Director of Public Works, Chow Vu, to add any additional information, answer any questions.
That's correct, Mike. In order to deviate from the California Vehicle Code, the city needs to adopt an ordinance allowing us to do such reductions from the 15 feet on each side of the fire hydrant. So that is essentially what staff is recommending tonight for City Council to adopt by motion, introduce and waive the reading of the ordinance so that we can implement this out in the field. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Mike. At this point, we're going to go ahead and open it up for council member questions. If you have any questions, this would be the time.
Chad, I just want to commend you for finding this. I think this is phenomenal given the shortage of parking spaces here in the city. Honestly, I can't believe we didn't think about it before, but I'm glad that we're doing it now. And just to clarify, a lot of the hydrants, we have 540 hydrants, correct?
Correct.
And so since we don't have an exact number of how many spaces we'll be reducing, is it more residential or commercial?
It's across the board. The fire hydrants are all over the city. Residential and commercial are all impacted. The significant reduction will be on the arterial streets that we have existing right now. So we will see some reduction, some availability of parking citywide.
Okay. Alrighty. That's all for me. Thank you.
Any other council member questions? Okay, hearing none. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing and public comments for this item. City Clerk, do we have anyone wishing to speak on this item?
We have no speakers tonight, Mayor.
Okay, seeing that we have no speakers, I will go ahead and close the public hearing at this point. And I'll also move to introduce and waive the reading of ordinance number 911, adding a new section to chapter 13.20 of Title 13 of the Bell Gardens Municipal Code to allow for the reducing of local fire hydrant red curbing requirements to 10 feet. May I have a second?
I'll go ahead and second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Flores. And I'll take this to a roll call vote. Councilmember Aceituno.
Yes.
Councilmember Barcena.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Flores.
Yes.
And yes for myself as well, so the motion carries. Okay, we're now moving on to public participation on agenda items only. City Clerk, do we have any speakers?
Yes, we have one speaker to be called. The name is Lisette Montoya, and I'll proceed with the call.
Hello.
Hello, is this Miss Montoya?
Yes, it is.
Ms. Montoya, this is Jane Halstead with the City of Bell Gardens. The reason for my call is I'm calling so you can state your comments before the City Council by phone. Please announce your name and state your comments. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Sure. Thank you very much. My name is Lizette Montoya. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. I am by Guard, a certified small women-owned business. I am here today to speak on item number 10, the approval of professional services agreement for the Cdbg administration services. Our company submitted a proposal to provide these services to the city, and we believe we are fully qualified to do so. We have a great working relationship with the city, and our program management team has over 10 years of experience. In addition, we have been providing these services to different cities in the surrounding area, so we are very familiar with the requirements of the Cdbg program and working with the LECDA. When we reviewed the agenda report, we were not able to see the scores on how the rating occurred for these services. So we're not really sure how we rank, but I can assure you that we are fully capable of performing the services requested in the RFP. In addition, I wanted to add that our fee submitted for these services is less than the amount of the contract being recommended today. So our not to exceed fee is lower than the fee that is being recommended for the consultant on the agenda tonight. So therefore, in addition, our hourly rates are also significantly lower. And as I mentioned, we feel that we are fully capable of performing the services. At this time, I am requesting that you reconsider our firm to provide these services to the city. Thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to comment. I'll be available if there's any questions during the agenda item.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay, that concludes our public participation on agenda items only. I will now close public participation. And now we're moving on to our city manager report. City manager.
Thanks again, Mayor Cortez. I'd like to just remind the council and residents that the Census 2020 wrapped up on October 16th. Bell Gardens' self-response rate ended up being slightly higher than the LA County average rate. And I'd also want to just thank our senior management analyst, Hyles Soto. He's been setting up the census caravans, been going to events. You've seen him out there with shirts on at the tables with the banners, and on his own volition, he really let the census go out with a bang. Hyles was out in front of City Hall with pan dulce and coffee until 2:59 a.m. on October 16th, getting those last few residents to self-respond. So very thankful for Hyles' effort, thankful for the residents that did self-respond. So we think that's a success. The second item I want to mention is up on the screen right now. It's the Halloween drive-in movie event. It's on Saturday, October 31st, from 5 to 9 p.m. They're showing the Disney Pixar movie Coco. I want to say thanks to the Recreation Community Services, Police Department, and also the Bicycle Hotel and Casino. So this will be a drive-in movie theater experience with a portable drive-in movie in a parking lot that looks very similar to a drive-in movie theater. So thanks to all the parties involved. I also just want to mention on the consent calendar, we have an item number 6 is slurry seal. And there was a question regarding the start date. The slurry seal, if approved by council, would start on November 2nd. The reason for the rapid mobilization is to get ahead of the rainy season. We're a couple weeks behind from when we would normally bring this item to the council. So that's the reason it would be expedited if the council were to approve the staff recommendation. Thank you, Mayor Cortez.
Thank you, City Manager. Moving on to consent calendar. Does any member of the council wish to pull any item for separate discussion? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and move to approve the consent calendar. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Councilmember Barcena, and I'll take this to a roll call vote. Councilmember Aceituno.
Yes.
Councilmember Barcena?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Flores?
Yes.
And yes for myself as well. So the motion carries. Okay, City Manager, we're moving on to discussion item number 9.
Thanks again, Mayor Cortez. This item is the local commission's appointment list, and it's staff recommendation that the council review the appointments list and by motion either remove commissioners or make appointments to posted vacancies.
Okay, council, the floor is open if you would like to amend this item, add any any commissioners, or remove.
I believe that item was placed there because of vacancy on my side, but I don't have anyone to replace it as of now. So unless anyone else has any changes, that I will not be making any at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Barcena. Anybody else wish to make any changes? Okay, so since there's no action to be taken, City Attorney, does it suffice that we just move on to the next item?
Yes, Madam Mayor, or you can just receive and file this and move on to the next.
Okay, we'll just go ahead and move on to the next item. City Manager, item number 10.
Thank you, Mayor Cortez. This item is for the approval of a professional services agreement for Cdbg administration services. There was a public comment on this item by one of the proposers a few minutes ago. So I'll cover a couple basic things here. I'll turn it over to our Community Development Director and then answer any questions that the council may have. So Cdbg monies, those are federal dollars that come from the Department of Housing and Urban Development through Cdbg Community Development Block Grant. Because of the population of the city of Bell Gardens, we're not able to receive that money directly. It comes through LA County Community Development Authority. So there's another layer of oversight between us and the federal government. So we run everything through LACDA, LACDA. Our current consultant who's done the work, exemplary work for a number of years, is retiring of in some way, shape, or form. And so we put out an RFP. We have presented the results of the RFP. And I want to cover a couple things. We receive about $650,000 per year. We've got proposals from Michael Baker, Avant-Garde, and Wildan. The staff recommendation is Michael Baker International. And the reason for that is a panel was convened for the RFP. And based on a number of data points, particularly, and I think most specifically related to experience, recommended Michael Baker. So they had the largest number of points, about 25 plus years of experience doing Cdbg administration, as compared to the other firms having some number less than that. From a cost perspective, just addressing the public comment earlier and to provide information, the hourly rate for Michael Baker International is about $20 an hour higher than that of, let's say, of Avant-Garde, one of the other proposers. And then in an annual amount, it's about roughly $9,000 or $10,000 more. When the panel looked at the expertise and the experience, I believe what they saw based on the results was that they think that money is well spent money. Just to get that experience. That's not to say that the other firms are not qualified. The Community Development Director, I think what you'll hear from it, these are all qualified firms that can do the work. And so the panel is really trying to get the best quality of work. And of course, the city's staff is always very cautious with Cdbg money. There's just extra layer of audits when it comes to federal money. So you introduce federal auditors, LA County auditors, and then our own financial statement auditors that do the single audit as well. So that's really the background there. And I'll turn it over to our Community Development Director to add any specifics that I may have missed that may be helpful to the council.
Well, thank you, Mr. City Manager. Overall, this is a request for proposals. It's not an invitation to bid. Had that been the case, then yes, it would be lowest bidder. But again, this is professional services, and an independent review of every proposal was done. And ultimately, the interview panel that selected the recommended firm did so not just based on cost, but also based on overall experience of the project manager that's going to be handling this on a day-to-day basis. You know, with Diana Cho, our prior consultant, we had a lot of years of experience, so we were very confident in her abilities and her relationship with the county. Here, we're seeing the difference between years of experience with the project manager, Mr. Michael Neal from Michael Baker and Associates, having 25 plus years experience. Mr. Tim Colono from Wildan having 20 plus years experience, and Avant-Garde's project manager having 10 years experience. So again, looking at the overall, that is what the panel based their decision on. Staff is happy to go forward and discuss this further. But at the end of the day, we have to take action. We've had Ms. Cho, I should say, waiting to be replaced, and she agreed to stay on for another couple of months because we had to redo the RFP. Initially, the proposal came in with only 2 firms proposing, Ms. Monica Trancoso and Wildan. And since then, Ms. Trancoso has actually withdrawn her proposal because she ended up joining Michael Baker and Associates. So it really strengthened that overall team. And I believe that was one of the decisions, or one of the reasons for the decisions from the panel as well. So that concludes my report.
Okay, is there any questions or motions by the council?
I'd like to motion to approve staff recommendation.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. If there is a second or a different motion as well.
I'll second that.
Okay, second by Councilmember Barson. I'll take this to a roll call vote. Councilmember Aceituno?
Yes.
Councilmember Barson?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Flores?
Yes.
And yes for myself as well, so that motion carries. Okay, moving on. City Manager, item number 11.
Thanks again, Mayor Cortez. This next item is one in what's becoming a long line of staff and council effort to comprehensively address the parking concerns that exist within the city of Bell Gardens. It goes back to things such as the parking study that was done about a year and a half ago, T-marking study, T-marking process, speed bumps, speed humps, parking in front of your driveway, all of these things. And what we really came down to was, the options left at some point become, do you have a permit process, whereas you're limiting the number of vehicles that are allowed to park on the city streets. And so staff put together a parking survey. The survey was sent out to 1,000 random residents. We received 200 and some responses, and our Director of Public Works will go ahead and present the responses to you. And we hope, we believe that the information that we received from the residents will give us a empirical data from which to come back to the council and make recommendations to make improvements that look like they would help the city from a parking perspective, and that also would be accepted by the residents as reasonable solutions. So I'll turn it over to Director Vu at this time. Thank you.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Thank you, Mike. As Mike mentioned, the survey was sent out to 1,000 random selected residential addresses. The survey was open for almost a period of a month. We received 249 responses. It was completed in both English and in Spanish. And I want to go over some of the questions that were sent to the residents. We wanted to make it short because we know the time is very valuable for our residents, so we did not want to make it too extensive. We wanted to get straight to the question, and our first question was straight out: does anyone in your household experience problems with parking their vehicle on the street where you live? And right there, 73% of the respondents said yes. And it's confirmed that, there's clearly a prevalent problem about parking, shortage of parking, high density. Residents has, complaints about double parking and some local business parking out on the residential streets as well. The claim about non-Bell Gardens residents parking their cars in the city. Also concerns about guests and visitors parking in the street. And, some of the suggestions that they had were, with the T markings, which we currently have as a policy for any neighborhood that wishes to implement that on their street. So that's available for residents as well. Okay, and the next slide is, that's, the next question is similar to the previous question as well. And we just wanted to reaffirm about the parking situation, if there is enough parking along their street. And this is reaffirms the previous question that 30% felt like there isn't enough parking. And they provided more comments as to what were their experiences along parking, such as saving spots, which we heard numerous times from various residents about people parking and moving it as when a relative comes home from work, and saving spots is what they called it. And the next question we have, would you pay a fee for street parking? And 55% said yes, 45 said no. And so it's half and half, a little more on the yes proponent. And those are some of the comments that they provided for paying for a street parking permit. Some said that they would do so only if it meant that a parking spot was guaranteed. And you can never guarantee a parking spot in a city street because, no one owns a city street. And some said that they were against a parking permit, feeling that it should be free because they pay for the tax already. They shouldn't also have to pay for parking. There's an economic hardship to pay for parking. And later on the slide, I will show you the hotspot of where the yeses and nos are, so you could have an idea of maybe there's a geographical area in the neighborhood that feels strongly about the permit. I'm gonna show that map for you as well to show that there could be some neighborhoods that might support the parking permit. Would you be willing to pay $50 a year for a parking permit? Very much similar to the previous question, 56% yes, 43 no. And it's a similar comment as well. It's a hardship. The fee is too much. Some wanted yes, some wanted no. We already pay taxes. The other question we have is, how many do you feel you need? And on average, the majority was 2. But of course, it's no guarantee that everyone's going to get 2 parking permits per household. It's going to be based on the availability of the street. So it could be 1. But we asked this question to feel how many they felt they needed, and the average was 2. This question, would you support a citywide restriction for overnight parking from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m.? There was an overwhelming majority of yes. 68% said yes, that they were in support of not having overnight parking unless there was a permit. So that's strong support right there to have permit parking for overnight restrictions. Here you see the heat map that I was talking about earlier, so you have a general idea of where the yeses and nos are. And of course, this is strictly confidential. When we receive the surveys, we don't want to disclose where the residents live. But based on the heat map that we have, you see concentrations of yes right here in this area, and some yeses right here and right here. So we have a target area of where a lot of the parking problems are. So it's in certain pockets of the city. So we can try and gauge certain neighborhoods where a parking permit would be effective. Would you pay a fee for a street parking permit? Once again, it's along here that have the yeses, right around here where there's the yeses. And it's spread out. So these are the yeses and nos that we've gotten responses from throughout the city. And it's good to see the spots spread out. So we targeted a good area, a very good response from the community. Right, again, we see the hot spots, the yeses are around here and the yeses are around here. So we can target some type of neighborhood programs with the permit program. Citywide restrictions. This is a lot of yeses. So this is citywide. And a few concentrations here, a few here, right, and the same areas right around here. But there's overwhelming support for overnight restrictions with the parking permit. So the next steps, staff is going to continue to find creative ways to find more parking. We know that it's dense. We know that the community is growing. We know that parking's limited. I've heard it. I see it. I know it. We're trying to find ways to find more parking. We're implementing parking strategies with T markings, driveway parking permits. We're finding ways to reduce red curbs that the city council adopted tonight. And we're also exploring ways to reduce green curbs citywide. We're doing that right now. We're surveying green curbs out there and trying to reduce that to allow more regular parking that are used for, businesses and commercial areas. As you know, with COVID, a lot of businesses have closed down and there's not a lot of activity in the commercial sector. So we want to revisit the green curves. We're contacting businesses to see if they still need it. If they don't need it, we're going to remove it and we're going to allow more parking for residents. And the other final step that we're going to do is prepare a parking permit program in the form of an ordinance to address parking needs based on the neighborhood. So that's going to be the next strategies for staff to address. That concludes my report. I'll answer any questions at this time.
Chow, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the initiative on this project. I know it wasn't something that we necessarily discussed to send out a survey, but I do think that it's very useful for us to be able to see the results. Also, I love that you have proposals as to what the next steps are to show the community that we're moving forward. Yes, it might be at a snail's pace because these things take time, but we are moving forward, trying to solve the issue. It's not a one answer fits all. As we see, different neighborhoods have different views when it comes to these. I'd be very interested in exploring the overnight, but seeing if there's a way to implement this without it being so costly to our residents. But I do know and understand that our financial situation, it's not booming right now. So I do also understand that. So I just wanted to thank you for the initiative and also for providing us next steps.
Chow, also thank you so much for providing this report. Before we continue, were these letters only sent to homeowners?
They were sent to residential addresses citywide.
So
we don't know. We didn't ask if they were homeowners. We didn't ask that question. We were concerned with that they live here and the land use was residential.
So we just randomized any address here in the city, right? It wasn't targeted. So it could have been an apartment.
It could be an apartment. Yes, it could be a multifamily. It could be a condo. It could be a duplex. As long as it was zoned for residential.
Okay, I believe that there was the notion that it was only sent out to homeowners. So I wanted to clarify that. Also moving forward, I noticed that on the highlighted areas, if you go back to the slide with the saturated areas, there you go. If you see Lonto, Agra, Gage, those streets are connecting streets to other cities. And the common consensus in that area is that people from, per se, Gage drive over from Bell to Bell Gardens and park their streets on Specht Avenue, Marlowe, Eastern, and, etc. Then if you look over down Live Oak area, Habaneria, all of those areas, they have Clara as a major connecting street from Cudahy, right? And they don't permit any overnight parking. So the map makes sense with what's actually happening. So I am completely for addressing neighborhoods based on a need because not every block is the same. So I just wanted to ask, if we know that there's a problem area here and we can solve it with parking permits, how quickly would that look? How for us to complete that process to actually have a resident with the permit?
It would take us about 4 months to develop the policy and to establish the guidelines. Like the question is, how much, how many? And those are policy questions that the council would have to decide when we bring it back to you.
So 4 months for a policy with a completion of the project?
No,
right?
we'd have to develop a policy. There has to be standards in terms of rules and conditions. Do we want overnight parking?
Yeah.
Is there a time frame? Or those are the questions that we have to bring back to the council to decide. And right now, I don't have a draft for you to
Okay.
kind of pick and choose the line item. I'd like to give it to you in a draft form where it's very clean, very straightforward. And once the council decides on those parameters, we can implement a permit program.
Okay. Sounds good. And then I also know that you mail these out to businesses, right?
That came from community development, correct? Yes.
Oh, community development. I'm so
Yes.
sorry. I thought that came.
We're partners. No, we're partners. We work together.
So you said it from the report that I saw, no one has actually offered to be a part of the shared parking opportunity.
That's correct. Because of liability issues, a lot of the property management companies did not want to take that risk of allowing residents to park on their lot. So that's the response that we got.
So for the residents that are currently watching this meeting and want to know what this is actually an invitation that was sent out from City Hall to business owners here in the city per se, Super A, right? Maybe food for less, parking lots, areas that have a large space. And what it is a commercial residential shared parking opportunity. So if you lived in that area and you wanted to stay there overnight, maybe then you can pay them a fee to keep your car there and, be safe overnight, correct? But none of the businesses have been able to say that they want to be a part of this program. Now, if I'm not mistaken, moving forward, we're inviting small businesses as well, right?
Yes.
And have we had any response back from small businesses?
That I am not aware of. Maybe Gus could answer that part of the question. Yeah.
Sure, Chow.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Flores, what's happened is Chow has indicated a lot of the businesses have concerns with the liability and also whether some people end up leaving abandoned vehicles and it'll be harder for them to remove them and so forth. But it is open to small and large businesses. And it could very well be that some businesses may already have agreements with some residents that we don't know about because we left it up to the businesses to deal directly with the public. So there might be some in place.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to inform the community that we are actively looking for solutions to alleviate the parking problem. But with that said, thank you so much for the report, Chow. Hopefully we can get the ball moving on this and we can alleviate this problem.
Any other questions or comments by the council?
Yes, this is Councilmember Marco Bárcena. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, I just want to thank staff for doing this great job at collecting data and giving us a concrete view of what how our residents feel about this parking issue. I think that it's important for us to distinguish the difference between the numbers that we receive. For example, 54% would pay for parking permit. That is, to me, is not an extremely clear signal, but at least it does show a positive signal that we need to do something involving permits. So I get that, but it's a little bit risky in my opinion, just because it's not an overwhelming positive turnout as far as this opinion goes. However, the 68% that would support a parking restriction for overnight parking, I think there's something that we need to look at right there. Maybe that's sort of the the way to start approaching this issue to fix it, because that number to me is extremely clear. So I would encourage staff and the council to really consider moving forward with some sort of policy that revolves around overnight parking. Having said that, I do want to caution the council. It sounds great to be able to pick out specific sections of the city, but at the same time, when we're talking about a drastic change such as parking permits, if we target specific areas of the city, we might get a slight problem where people go park in other areas, so we're sort of just moving the problem around. So I would encourage everyone to consider, if we do any parking permit changes, that we do them across the board. That way we don't have the problem of this issue just being relocated. But again, thank you so much for this excellent effort in collecting data. I think it provides a clear set of data for us to move forward. So thank you.
Any other questions, comments from the council? Hearing none. Mike, this is just a receive and filed, but if we want to move forward, should we give direction?
I think Mayor Cortez, I've heard the comments from council. I think the Public Works Director, myself, the Police Chief, Community Development Director, we can reconvene. I think I hear what the council's saying. So we can come up with some ideas that maybe we can be a little bit quicker in implementing and address some of these issues that have brought up. So I think if we come back, let's say in 2 council meetings with some staff recommendations that are more specific than what we've talked about today, if that would please the council, we can do that. And we'll have some discussion with council in between that time as well.
Yes, and Chief, currently right now our CSOs only work daytime, correct?
For the most part, yes. Every now and then we rotate some to the nights for some special details, but yeah, for the most part, they work days.
Okay, so we would also have to possibly look into bringing a CSO for the enforcement piece overnight if we do decide to move forward with this. And I want to agree with Marco. Excellent. He brought up an excellent point about if we do just pockets, then residents might move around and just park in other streets. So I think that was an excellent observation, Marco. Okay, with that, I'll go ahead and move to receive and file. May I have a second?
I'll second that.
And then I'll take this to a roll call vote. Councilmember Aceituno?
Yes.
Councilmember Barcena?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Flores?
Yes.
And yes for myself as well, so motion carries, received and filed. City Manager, moving on to item number 12.
Thanks again, Mayor Cortez. This next item is to accept $8 million from the LA County under the Safe Clean Water Program. This is for phase 2 of the John Anson Ford Park Infiltration Cistern Project. So this is a project that the council members took a tour of recently. It's a large-scale project, a lot of material being moved, with a benefit that can be sometimes hard to understand or perceive, especially compared with the effort that goes into the work and the downtime of our recreation fields. But what this item basically does is accept the phase 2 funding and also execute a change order with the existing construction companies to keep the work moving forward. The reason we didn't go back out to RFP again is just out of expedience and to keep the work moving, keep the project going so it can be wrapped up as soon as possible, so we get our fields back into playing shape and ready for post-COVID activities. I'll turn it over to Director Vu for additional detailed information on this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. As Mike mentioned, we've got $8 million that has been allocated to us from the LA County Safe Clean Water Regional Funds, also known as Measure W. And in accepting those funds, we can proceed with the change order and expand the current phase that we have right now.
There want to be intellectual security, doesn't it? Oops. Oh, sorry, I was reading something.
And expand the current phase of construction that we have going on right now. I wanted to show the display and recap that Bell Gardens is the lead agency for a regional project, and those are our partners right there. Bell, Commerce, Cudahy, Huntington Park, LA County Flood Control, Maywood, and Vernon. They are project partners. They've contributed to this project about $1 million for phase one already. And so without their support, we wouldn't be receiving this funding right now. So we have their full support, and they want us to succeed, and they're going to try whatever they can to support us and get our votes when it comes to this allocation, and that's how we got it. The chronology of this event, we're doing this not because we're not just stewards of green building and the environment. We're doing this because it's a mandate. This is as a result of the Clean Water Act. They've determined that all of the bodies of water, including the channel, the LA River, the Rio Hondo, are considered bodies of water, and we need to keep it clean. They don't want any type of pollutants discharged to these bodies of water. And that's the reason why we're doing this project, because it's a mandate. And it started back in 1972, has been litigated on that definition since this time. We used to be part of LA County's permit. We're no longer part of LA County. Now we are our own permittees. It is now every man for himself. As of 2012, we saw that and we needed to band together. We united and formed a watershed. In 2013, the City Council adopted an MOU for us to form a watershed so that we can share the costs and administration of these mandates. And after that, 2014, we submitted this draft of this plan that included Ford Park. In 2014, the state regional board adopted it, accepted it, and gave us the green light to proceed with implementation. 2015, we continued with future amendments for cost sharing. We presented each and every item before the council for adoption. We also approved sub-recipient agreements for $10 million back in 2018 to proceed with phase one for Ford Park. We took the council for action on design for Ford Park, for environmental services for CEQA for Ford Park back in 2019. We took the item for plans and specs to the city council back in for Ford Park to bid it out. And we awarded it before the city council as well. And now tonight we have before you the approval to accept $8 million that has been allocated by the LA County Board of Supervisors to continue with Ford Park expansion. That is our watershed area that you see before you. This is our watershed of all the agencies that I mentioned earlier, and it encompasses 22.2 square miles. Here we have as to why Ford Park was chosen. We are driven by zinc and bacteria to clean that up. It's called a TMDL. We have other TMDLs. We have copper, trash, but because of zinc and bacteria, they have their own timelines to get it done quicker than all the other TMDLs. There you have the timeline before you. Ford Park is first to be completed because we have the TMDL that has specific deadlines, and that is our deadline. Phase one is December 20, and we are on track for that. We submit annual reports to the regional board every year. We're going to submit them showing that we have good faith effort of finishing phase one. We are on track for phase two. We have funding for it now. We are one of 6 different BMPs. We call it regional BMPs. Every single city right there has a BMP. They have their own little Ford Park to do in their own city, but they have different timelines. Ford Park has a different timeline, and we have the earliest one, and a lot of our city agencies are supporting us so we can meet those deadlines because we are all on the hook for this project. When it comes time for Fern to go online, for Commerce to go online, for Huntington Park to go online, Bell Gardens is going to be there to support them as well. We're always going to be together to support each other because we have a shared MOU where we've agreed to support each other financially and strategically. Here we have a summary of the award for Ford Park. We awarded $10 million through Prop 1. $1 million came from the other agencies. Here you see the breakdown based on square miles for all the agencies that have contributed $1 million towards phase one. Here you have phase one. It's currently 8 acre feet. There you have photos of the project under construction right now. That's what it looks like right now. Here we have the proposal to expand it into phase 2 based on the $8 million. We can infiltrate under the 13.5 acre feet of the cistern project. And it extends the completion date from May of 2021 to November of 2021 of next year. And the extension you see before you, side by side, here's the aerial of Ford Park. And here's the extension of what we're going to expand into with the $8 million that council could be accepting tonight. And the scope of work for that expansion includes 13.5 acre feet, additional ball field demolition and restoration. And the restoration includes all utilities, wet and dry, the sod, the landscaping, decomposed granite, the signs, the concrete bollards, the concrete walkway, the pavers, chain link fencing, concrete bench, all to its original condition. We're also replacing the storm drain, the concrete, the landscape, the irrigation. So everything that this project touches will be replaced. We're also adding 10 new trees, a new parking lot for the golf course, and that's about 28,000 square feet. Here you have the proposal to replace the driveway that leads to the golf course. As you can see to your right, this is in bad shape. We need these improvements, and they're overdue. And as part of this project, we will be receiving betterments because of that cistern project. We're receiving a lot of amenities that need to be improved that otherwise did not have funding before. The funding that would be available that would qualify for these park improvements would be general funds. It is very difficult to find park grants out there. It's very hard, very few, very competitive. And so the alternative in finding funding for these improvements would be general funds, which we do not have, which is very limited. And so this grant presents an opportunity for the city to receive park improvements that we didn't have before. So the Ford Park Cistern Project also has a website. So the public can check out the website that you see above at johnfordparkproject.com to get updates, photos, you name it. In summary, by accepting the funding from LA County, the $8 million, we're accepting to proceed with the expansion of phase 1 of the cistern project so that we can move into phase 2. That concludes my report. I'll answer any questions at this time.
Does council have any questions?
I have a question, Mayor.
Okay, go ahead, council member.
Chow Vu, in regards to the other side of the parking lot, is that also scheduled to be part of the renovations?
Which side of the parking lot, Pedro? Are you talking about
in front of the
east?
on the side of Park Lane?
This part right here? Yes, this entire parking lot on the north is scheduled to be replaced as well. We will not just do this half, we're doing all of it. And it stops at the monument sign. It stops at the entrance of the parking lot.
Now, what can we do to also try to expedite the phase 2 part of it? Because I think that the residents at some point want to get back to use baseball, softball fields. What can we do to help expedite that process?
This is the best process right now. We have the contractor in place. We have the unit price already stated and bid out. So by approving this change order tonight, this is the best possible way of speeding things up with no disruption. The contractor is mobilized. The equipment is mobilized. So he's ready to go and move south on the project. So this is the best strategy that you can do to reduce time and save money as well. Other than that, if we go out to bid, we have to redraw the plans, we have to rebid it out, we have to re-advertise. It will take another 3 months to do that process all over, and that delays the reopening and the rebuilding of the sports field.
So can you talk a little bit about the work that's been done at Veterans Park for the ball field there in anticipation of the to try to help mitigate the impact of the fields being closed at Ford Park. That may help the council as well to understand sort of the foresight that went into that effort.
Yes, and in terms of the mitigation impacts, we anticipated some disruption in service for activities and sports play. And we have, actually the watershed cities have contributed $40,000 out of their own general funds to rebuild and excavate and grade the ball field at Veterans Park. And in the last council meeting, City Council also approved an award to build a fence at Veterans Park. So some of the programming that would have been lost over at Fort Park can be scheduled at Veterans Park should COVID allow us to open again. So we have been ready to help support the programming that could be transferred over at Veterans Park. And unfortunately, because of COVID, there's been no sports programming whatsoever. So the sooner we get this going, the sooner we can open up and, hopefully open up before COVID opens up and anticipate programming for sports.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the council? Okay, hearing none, just to reiterate for our community, once we are ready to open up again, after the COVID restrictions have been lifted, we do have alternative ways to be able to continue our sports leagues. So that's one of the, issues and concerns that our community has. And then second, I think one of the other concerns is that our fields are being destroyed. But the good news is that once the Successor project is completed, the fields will also come back and they'll be in new condition. So that's also a positive for our community, that our Ford Park is pretty much getting a new makeover. Okay, so with that, I would like to go ahead and move.
I'll second.
Okay, second by Councilmember Aceituno, and I'm just going to go ahead and clarify. I am moving for all three recommendations, which is to accept the $8 million from Los Angeles County under the Safe Clean Water Program, 2020-2021 Regional Program Stormwater Investment Plan, as well as to authorize the city manager to enter into a transfer agreement with the Los Angeles County Public Works for receipt of the $8 million from LA County Safe Clean Water Program, and also authorize our city manager to execute a change order along with the amendments to the construction contract with Successor Company for the construction of the John Anson Ford Park Infiltration System Project CIP 3879. So I'll take this to a roll call vote. Councilmember Aceituno.
Yes.
Councilmember Barcena.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Flores.
Yes.
And yes for myself as well, so motion carries. Thank you so much, Director. Moving on, City Manager, item number 13.
Thank you, Mayor Cortez. This item is the last of several items where management's been negotiating with represented bargaining units for the employees of the City of Bell Gardens. What you've seen previously are agreements that are very similar to each other. This one is very similar as well. There's a slight difference here in that every bargaining unit bargains for themselves, and while we generally have the same, oftentimes have the same parameters, the way we get to the same numbers are different. There's a subtle difference with this negotiation in that the 7.5% of base salary, instead of taking it from base salary, it's the same dollar amount, but it would come from the health contributions that are made by the city to the employee. So the employee's take-home pay is reduced by the same as all the other agreements. One of the other differences is that we're only providing 4 hours of comp time, furlough comp time, instead of 6 hours of comp time that was generally agreed to by the other bargaining units. So you may ask, why would somebody accept the same deal that takes away the same amount of money and only receive 4 hours of furlough comp time instead of 6 hours? The reason being is the way that this is being structured is it doesn't negatively impact any CalPERS calculations that may occur in somebody's final 12 or 36 months. For the Police Management Association group, this is obviously a group of employees who have significant amount of tenure with the city, and It's a 7-month agreement, so it's a little longer than the other agreements, but this is of a potentially higher level of importance to this group overall than it may have been to the other bargaining units. So it's also for a longer period of time. So the number of comp time hours are significantly less that are being provided. The period of time is for an additional month and 10 days. And I'm just happy to report that this is the final piece of our dealing with our concession bargaining with our represented employees. Our unrepresented employees are next. But with that, I would staff would recommend that the City Council approve this agreement as provided in this agenda. Thank you.
Any questions from the council? Okay, hearing none, I would like to thank all of our labor groups for, coming to agreements with the city. You're undoubtedly helping our city and our budget and our finances by making this process easier. We understand that this is, not the best scenario. Every single city is going through the same. We're trying to do the best to retain all of our staff at minimal costs. Cutbacks to our staff, because we do appreciate all of you, every single labor group, that you're still showing up to work despite the pandemic. And that you're exposing yourself. So I do want to thank and show appreciation for every single one of you. And with that, I would like to go ahead and move with staff's recommendation to adopt resolution number 2020-93 and approve the tentatively agreed upon side letter of agreement with the Bell Gardens Police Management Association. May I have a second? Okay, so at this point, there's a motion on the floor. If I don't have a second, that motion dies. Okay, and hearing none, then that motion dies. Correct, City Attorney?
Mayor, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, that motion would die for lack of a second.
Okay, so that motion dies. Any other motions? Hearing none, I guess we're continuing this item, City Manager?
We'll go back and continue bargaining, and we'll come back to the council at the next meeting.
Mayor, can you repeat your motion? Can you repeat the motion?
Yeah, sorry. The motion was to adopt the resolution number 2020-93 to approve the tentatively agreed upon side letter of agreement with the Bell Gardens Police Management Association.
I'll second that.
City Attorney, how do we go about this?
I was having technical difficulties.
Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, I think as long as it's understood, Mayor, that you had made the motion to approve, it sounds like Councilmember Aceituno was having technical difficulties. As long as now there's a second, we can do a roll call vote on that.
Okay. Thank you, Rick. Councilmember Aceituno.
Yes.
Councilmember Barcena.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Flores.
Yes.
And yes for myself as well. That motion carries. Okay, we're now moving on to public participation on non-agenda items. City Clerk, do we have any speakers?
Yes, we have 2 speakers that have requested to be called. The first one is Garcia Jimenez. I'll go ahead and place that call.
Hello?
Hello, is this Miss Jimenez?
Yes.
My name is Jane Halstead, City Clerk for the City of Bell Gardens. I'm calling so you can state your comments before the council by phone. Please announce your name and state your comments. You have 3 minutes to speak. Go ahead and start.
Hello, my name is Gracia Jimenez, resident of Bell Gardens. I'm calling to bring up some safety concerns my family and I have had this past 2 weeks. It started on September 17th when I received a phone call from the Jennifer and Christian campaign. The caller asked me if I can count on my vote for Christian. When I answered no, she began to bash Mr. Aceituno. I told him how I couldn't vote for them because I knew about Jennifer and because they are endorsed by Florida's Mayor Pro Tem, who is willing to pay and do anything to help her get votes. I made my feelings clear about her and her false accusations of sexual harassment, all for some type of self-gain. That is when the Mayor Pro Tem Flores took over the phone call and made me feel uncomfortable. I never requested to speak to her. I told her my very personal reason to why I do not believe her. She continued to give me clarification on her accusations by asking me if I saw the Facebook pictures that someone else posted of her. When I told her that this is all political slander and it is just proof that she is using her position to ruin people's lives and to help her gain votes, she changed the narrative and accused me of bringing her children into our conversation and made sure to tell me that she didn't need or want my support before hanging up on me. After I posted my experience on Facebook, I have been bullied and harassed by Lisa's friends, including that girl Elizabeth Ian, who was with the Mayor Pro Tem Flores when she was harassing our resident, Ms. Lorenzo. They made up rumors about my husband and my 5-year-old son who has autism and is just learning to communicate. I have been asked for my personal home address. I don't know what for, but Lisa's own husband has threatened another resident and requested their home address, all because they mentioned they knew Lisa from her weed smoking days. Lisa and the same friend, Isabel Guillen, were driving around the city screaming obscenities to another resident, snapped a picture of her and posted more slander of her on social media because she was campaigning for her friend's opponent. We cannot continue to allow Lisa Flores, Mayor Pro Tem, to continue to bully and harass our communities. If anything happened to me, it is because of her. Please keep us updated on these sexual harassment allegations. Mr. Aceituno, this is defamation of your character. Her accusations must have real consequences. It is because of people like her that the real victims don't get hurt and get no real justice. And in your own words, Mayor Pro Tem Flores, I don't want your support. I don't need your support. Just because you know how to read what a feminist is, it doesn't mean you are one. You don't seem to comprehend what some words mean. We don't want your support, and we don't need your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Have a nice evening. The next speaker is William Gutierrez.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Gutierrez.
Yes, it is.
This is Jane Halstead, City Clerk for the City of Bell Gardens. I'm calling so you can state your comments before the City Council by phone. Please announce your name and state your comments. You have 3 minutes to speak, starting now.
Thank you, Jane. Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to breathe. My name is Will Gutierrez. I'm a 48-year resident of Bell Gardens. Tonight, to me, I find this quite different from 84 when at that time I was a candidate for City Council and we had actual meetings at the chambers, which was then not affected by COVID-19, of course. I'll cut to the chase. I plead my case because today I discovered, to my dismay, and better yet, my consternation, that a candidate for office here in Bell Gardens can refuse to provide and make public their phone number and email address. To say that I was flabbergasted is putting it mildly. I believe incensed would be more correct. I believe we had left the archaic days in which secrecy was the name of the game. What kind of an open government do we have here in Bell Gardens? can candidates choose to refuse their constituents to approach them by not providing a means in which to do so? What kind of representation do we have? Is this representation at all? All the public gets to see is or read statements without substance, or candidates allegedly slandering each other. How do we ferret out the truth without approaching the candidate and allowing the one slandered to speak up and defend themselves? I firmly believe one way could be to have a forum set up by responsible people here in Bell Gardens to allow the citizenry, myself included, of course, the opportunity to question the candidate and to allow them to dispel the ugly negativism that has permeated Bell Gardens these past few weeks. I believe Bell Gardens will be better served if we can accomplish something like this type of a forum, so to speak, during the election that we have. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, John.
That concludes public comment, Mayor.
Okay, that concludes public comment. So I will go ahead and close public participation on non-agenda items. And now we're going to go ahead and move on to council member comments. Councilmember Barcena.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank staff and the city manager, my colleagues, and everyone for doing such a great job as we approach these elections. I want to encourage everyone to vote. Please make sure you do anything and everything you can do to make sure that we elect the right president. I cannot tell you how I would deal with another 4 years of Trump. I despise that guy. He's a racist bigot. And I know that the majority of our city is with me on that. So I encourage you, please, if you've never voted, this is the time to do it. If you have voted, don't stop now. We are counting on you. I know that California is overwhelmingly Democratic, but I think we need to send as strong as a message as we can, because this is a crucial time in our government. And, having said that, in regards to the presidential candidates, I want to shift over to our local elections. And I want to make sure that everyone realizes how important this election is, because this will determine who your leaders will be for the next 4 years. And I can't tell you how important that is. There are dozens and 100 staff that depend on reliable leaders that have the tact, that have the integrity to lead the city in the right direction. So we need you guys to practice your democratic rights and vote. We need your voice to be heard. We need you to do Bell Gardens a favor and elect the right candidates. I think everyone pretty much knows who I'm supporting, and I stand behind that 100%. I think the people that I'm supporting are extremely qualified for this city. And I think that they are definitely the best that you can choose here in the city of Bell Gardens. So again, I thank you for those that already voted. And for those that haven't voted, we're waiting and relying on you. And please vote accordingly. I want to thank the mayor for doing such an excellent job for the last 2 years almost already. So thank you, Alejandra Cortez, Mayor of Bell Gardens. You've done an excellent job. You've set an example, not only for this council, but for all of the women in Bell Gardens. I think it's amazing what you've done. And even if you had to go another year, I'll be fine with that. I also want to thank, Pedro Aceituno for maintaining his integrity. Me and Pedro were not always working together due to political cliques, basically. As you guys know, I'm new to this political game. And it took me a year to really learn what are the most valuable things when it comes to leadership. And I think that Pedro Aceituno definitely holds those qualities to a great degree. And one thing to recognize is that someone's ability to work with others is extremely important for leadership. So look for leaders that can work with others, because without that, if you're a divisive person like President Trump, it's not going to work out. And I do believe that in this city, in the city of Bell Gardens, we do have people in place to continue doing a great job. And another thing that I want to commend Pedro Aceituno is responding with a strong message when allegations were made against him. He demanded an investigation to be done immediately, which is the right thing to do. And, you know, these allegations are very important. They need to be addressed. They need to be looked at. And that's exactly what Pedro did. So I commend him for that. And he reacted, in my opinion, in the best possible way. So thank you for that, Pedro. And that's my comment for today. Please go out and vote.
Thank you, Councilmember Barcena. Mayor Pro Tem Flores?
Okay, hang on a second. Okay, well, there's a lot to address here. First of all, I want to go ahead and invite everybody. I know the city manager already did, but most people like to tune in the end. We have the Halloween movie drive-in here in the casino. It's on Halloween night, and it's a really good experience for our children to know what it was like when the drive-ins were here. And it's, you know, if the pandemic has showed us anything, it's how to go back to simpler ways. So I'm really excited for this, and I hope that you guys can all join us. I do want to address Mrs. Jimenez for her call. I want to encourage anyone who feels harassed to please come forward. I truly do sympathize with you for having your family bullied and your children put on display, as I have had a similar story. My children, my family, and me have been put on display. My sister, for those who don't know, has velocardiofacial syndrome, DeGeorge syndrome. So when me and another council member brought in the pageant, we focused it around different disabilities because that's what's important to me. So like I said, I sympathize with you. I understand you. And I hope that if there's anything that I can do for you, that you can come here, because I'm here to support everybody, even those who don't like me, because I'm here to represent and I'm here to help. And that's what I'm always here for. And I've always been here for that. Also, I do want to address that I did not accuse anyone for sexually harassing me. I accused them for harassing me, and I displayed photos of what actually happened in true time. So I'm glad an investigation was put forward, because I'm sure that there's cameras in a courtroom where they could vividly display what he did to me and what he has done to many women, as I presume. I don't know. However, I am very grateful that I sit here and that people have entrusted me with this position. And I have never backed down or bent over for any of the people who have asked me to change my vote or sell my vote. And I continue to stay true to the progressive platform that I have always stood by. And I urge everyone to believe in women. You know, investigations are necessary and need to be transparent. So with that said, I hope that if there's anybody out there, like, again, who's been a victim of something, to please come forward, because there are other people and you're not alone anymore. There's other people with you, and a lot of us have a big voice for you to help you out. So with that said, everybody have a happy Halloween. Please be safe, practice social distancing. A lot of countries are having a sudden rates of positive COVID patients in different countries because they opened up too fast. And, you know, LA County is full of people. A lot of us are still going out, and we are not being as careful as we were before. So as Halloween approaches, where kids literally go door to door collecting candy, let's see if there's better ways that we can celebrate this, you know, holiday, and take care of our kids, and, you know, be careful and make sure that we don't spread the virus anymore. And with that said, go out and vote on November 3rd, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful night. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Aceituno, let's try your mic.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to thank our staff for the work that they're doing. I know during this COVID-19 situation that we're all going through, it's been tough, but I think that you guys have gone above and beyond to make things happen in our city. Chow Vu, I want to commend you for the initiative you took to do the survey on the parking situation. I know that there's more work to be done, but I feel confident that you're the right person that's going to make sure that we do the right thing as a community. and to our other departments. Looking forward to continuing the work that we've done. And we'll see you all next week. Hopefully you come out and vote. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Aceituno. As far as my comments go, again, I also want to reiterate our Halloween event. It is a safe way to celebrate Halloween. Come and join us and watch movies so that we also integrate our Dia de los Muertos. Unfortunately, this year we won't be able to have that event, but we're integrating it by showing Coco. It's a nice way to celebrate our traditions as the Latino community. I encourage all the kids to dress up. We will be having medals for those that dress up. We also will have food vendors. We'll be, have COVID safety measures in place. So I do encourage everyone, come out, bring your blankets. You can open up your trunk and sit there or sit inside your car. It's a fun experience and it's a safe way to celebrate Halloween. So I do want to encourage everyone to come. Secondly, Marco, you almost made me cry there. I'm a crybaby, but thank you so much for your very kind words. I do want to thank you. And I want to thank Pedro for supporting me over these last 2 years, especially during this last year of the pandemic. It has been a challenge for myself, for staff, for you guys as well. So I just want to thank you both for supporting me and also just for being there every single time an issue would arise. So Pedro, Marco, this is the last meeting before our election. So onward, on to victory. Everybody has to go out and vote. I do want to encourage everyone, please, November 3rd, you can do it in 3 different ways. You can go ahead and turn in your mail-in ballot at one of the kiosks or one of the boxes that are marked by LA County. You can drop off your ballot the day of the election, or you can also drop it off at any of the early voting polling sites. You can check online to see which polling places are open. There's already some in a couple of cities. From what I know, the City of Bell Gardens polling places will open on October 30th. So everyone has ample time to go vote. And you can also submit your ballot the same day, November 3rd, as long as it's before 8 p.m. So there's ample ways, whatever way you feel most comfortable, make your voice be heard for our city, for our nation, for all of the different measures that are in place. Make your voice be heard. Lastly, I do want to, end the meeting for praying for the firefighters that are currently battling a very dangerous fire in the OC County, including the ones that were already injured. From what I know, there's already 2 firefighters injured. So I just want, our community to pray for all these frontline men and women that are battling these fires right now. And hopefully the winds will calm down